Hugh Grant returns to the big screen as a villain in Heretic. Is it any good? Let's find out right now.
But I want you to choose which door to go through based on your faith.
What does this have to do with us leaving?
Everything.
Hey everyone, I'm Josh. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be reviewing Heretic. Before we get into it, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. It's free to do so. I'm going to read you guys a quick plot description just so you know what the movie is about. Two young religious women are drawn into a game of cat and mouse in the house of a strange man. So this one did premiere at Toronto Film Festival, a big film festival, probably one of the biggest ones just under Cannes Film Festival. I was looking at all the reactions for this one because I was really excited. I had some really high expectations for this one. Each trailer got me more and more excited. I think it had like 3 trailers. The first trailer, I was hyped. I was like, oh my goodness, Hugh Grant's playing a villain. This is going to be pretty good. A24 is back in their bag. And the question is, did it live up to that hype for me? And I think so, for me personally, because I really enjoyed it and thought it was great, even though it might piss people off. You know, a certain group of people, let's just say religious people, because this movie is basically, if you haven't watched the trailer, it's about religion and belief and disbelief. So if you're a very religious person, you might want to step away from this one. Maybe watch it on digital because it might piss you off with its beliefs and all that. But also, it's just a movie, so don't take it so literally, but I thought it was great. What's interesting is that this one was directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, who both wrote the first Quiet Place movie, which is one of my favorite horror movies in the past like 10 years and all that. But they also directed 65, which I think came out in 2022 or 2023, I forget, because that was a pretty bad movie. And honestly, just a boring sci-fi movie with Adam Driver fighting dinosaurs. Like, how do you make that boring? How do you make Adam Driver fighting dinosaurs boring? It doesn't make any sense. But I will say one movie doesn't define them, because they had a big comeback with this movie. Heretic is great for me, and from them, it's going to be a decent win for A24 too at the box office, because I expect it to hold well. I mean, I don't see it making like 100 million worldwide, but I expect it to make a decent bit, and especially more than A24's previous movies that they haven't marketed that well. Beck and Woods also wrote the screenplay for this one, and it's one of my favorites from the whole entire year because it's pretty genius stuff and really smart at times, and it will have you questioning like your own beliefs about any and all religions, because there's been a lot of religions in life, and I'm not a big believer of anything. I'm not really religious about stuff, but it had me thinking. I was like, I see what you're doing there. I'm really interested in this stuff, because they keep it engaging throughout the whole runtime. Some people, as I say, won't agree with it and won't agree with how they're discussing this, but I really did like what they said about religion and the control it has over some people's lives, especially when they're forced into it. What I also thought was really fascinating about this movie is that it's almost all set in this one location in Mr. Reed's home, and it's utilized really well. I mean, you have this one location, there's some other scenes that they're just walking around, the 2 missionaries in this movie, they're just walking around talking to other people, but it's basically set in this one house, and you travel to like 4 different rooms, I would say. And you don't really notice that because you aren't really focused on the rooms here, aren't really focused on the scenery. You're kind of just intrigued on the characters' conversations themselves about, you know, religion stuff. And that's why the screenplay is so good, so smart, because you're only focused on that. And I thought every line was just delivered so well. We have to talk about the cast, because Hugh Grant is, you know, the main lead of this movie, playing Mr. Reed, you know, the guy that starts the cat and mouse game in this one. And he turns in one of my favorite performances by a male this year, because he is devilishly good in this one, and quite humorous at times too, which I wasn't expecting. But he does a Jar Jar Binks impression in this movie, and it just came out of nowhere, and I was like, this man is crazy. He's on something, and I don't even know. But the script that they gave for this man was great, and I think that he would have liked it, because Hugh Grant, you know, he's pretty particular on the scripts that he does accept, and I really did like his performance here. I've always thought that Hugh Grant would play a great villain after the Paddington movies, and now this, he's hitting all the genres and doing it expertly. Just give me more Hugh Grant as a villain. It's terrific, and of course as an Oompa Loompa, because he was great in Wonka. Can't wait to see him in that sequel. Sophie Thatcher and Khloe East are also in the movie as the secondary leads. I'm not too familiar with Khloe East. Sophie Thatcher I'm pretty familiar with. She was in The Boogeyman from 2023. She's also in Yellow Jackets, which I've heard good things from. I might be watching that soon. I think they're also great in this one as the 2 missionaries who become trapped in Mr. Reed's house. they both get to have, you know, their own, you know, competitive conversations, because this kind of is like a debate film. I would say they're both debating, you know, religion with Mr. Reed, and he's debating back to them, and they both get to have their equal parts here. I felt like Khloe East was actually, she had some really funny moments in here. I did like her a lot. Sophie Thatcher was also really great, but she's more, her character really keeps to herself more, and kind of is like, one of those really characters that just pushes everything away from them and just holds everything in, and you really felt that with her character. While Khloe East, she's like new to this, missionary stuff, and she's really just letting everything out at that point. And I really did like those two different, you know, people in this movie. And as I said, they're both great. Standing alongside the legendary Hugh Grant, I would say it would be pretty hard to stand against them, but I thought they both stood their own ground as the secondary leads in the movie. And some people are probably asking, is this a scary movie? I wouldn't really label it as a scary movie. It probably does fit under the horror genre, but it's mostly just thriller in my eyes. There's probably only one scene where I was a little spooked. As someone who gets pretty scared during, you know, horror movies and all that, it does make you a decent bit anxious, but there aren't really any jump scares in it, I would say. It's more just focusing on religious aspects and thriller aspects. And throughout the movie, there are twists and turns that are taking place, and the ending does go to pretty surprising, you know, ways. But I think it is a little bit rushed, because the first two acts are handled very meticulously and to a fine point, while the third act has a lot to deal with and a lot to kind of settle, which made the ending kind of too out there for me and kind of too out there for probably some other people, because it's one of those ambiguous endings where there's a lot of possibilities what could have happened. You know, that sometimes works for me, but if there's like so many possibilities of what could have happened, I feel like they just didn't know how to end it. And I felt like if we would have added 10 more minutes of explanation there, I felt like maybe the pacing would have been a little bit better. I'm not really complaining that much, because I still really enjoyed the movie, but for some people it's really going to turn them off, because those first two acts are very different from that last act. Overall, Heretic is one of the smartest scripts of the year. Even though it rushes through the third act a little too fast, I still had a devilishly good time, and Hugh Grant was eating up every monologue that he was giving, while Khloe East and Sophie Thatcher were fun to watch while they were being scared out of their mind in this game of cat and mouse. I'm going to give Heretic a strong 8 out of 10. If you did watch Heretic, make sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments. I'd love to see what you guys thought. If you did enjoy this review, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, because it is free to do so. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.